that. He did not want to do that. And in the end, it was basically only in defense of his life. Again, restraint, because the first thing he did, he chased this car a 1/10 of a mile to go help that man, and ended up, the New Albany police on that scene saved his life. So that's why we're here today, and I just want to compliment that. And I'll turn it over real quick for a statement from Todd Bailey.
It's hard to follow.
1 second so we can all readjust.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
All good, everyone?
Make sure you're focused.
You want me to hold your mic?
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
And for those of you who might have missed, Todd Bailey, TODD-BAILEY, Chief of Police, New Albany. As Prosecutor Lane said, this is a very powerful case for our community, and it was a very impactful case for our department. New Albany is a very nice community, and we have very little violent crime here. When we have a situation like this one, it's shocking not only to the community, but to all of us. In this case, Sergeant Davidson, as Prosecutor Lane stated, was only there to help people. And this man chose to put not only his own life in danger, but the lives of other officers and in another case, civilians in jeopardy by his actions. Today was the day that he was held accountable for those actions. I just want to thank Prosecutor Lane for all of their office's assistance, and also the assistance of all of our partner law enforcement agencies, including the Indiana State Police with this case. Thank you.
And real briefly, I'm going to have Ms. Stigdon speak, and then any questions you have. But one of the things we've noticed is domestic violence repeatedly can lead to an elevation of violence. And so we've noticed that in our community, and we're going to be shifting resources to meet that challenge. Schrock Douglas, 240 years, started with a domestic violence incident. The last officer killed in our county approximately 16 years ago was Frank Denzinger, responding to a domestic incident. So domestic incidents lead or can lead to serious violent felonies. In this case, an A misdemeanor domestic violence is now a level 3, which is 16 years. That's how this can escalate. So Elizabeth Stigdon is our chief deputy. She has a passion for this and exceptional knowledge, and she's organized a program we'll be rolling out this year to help deal with this domestic violence. Liz, would you speak real quick on that? Oh, and Liz has a cold, so she's going to sound like she has a
Be able to hear that. And before you get started, could you spell your last name for us?
It's Stigdon.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
I'm Liz Stigdon, and we know that domestic violence calls are some of the most dangerous calls that our law enforcement officers can respond to. And this case highlights that. We're lucky to live in a community with great officers like John Davidson and the rest of the officers that responded with the New Albany Police Department. So, as Mr. Lane mentioned, some of the most violent crimes that occur in this community are precipitated by domestic violence incidents. And he mentioned Schrock Douglas. That's a prime example. So what can start as, in this case, a lower level domestic violence case can elevate into a very serious violent crime, as in this case in Schrock Douglas, who had a history of domestic violence as well. So our office is continuously responding to those types of things and to the domestic violence incidents that occur here in Floyd County. And we work hand in hand with New Albany Police Department, Floyd County Sheriff's Department, and Indiana State Police to that end. One thing we've determined to do in our office is to assign a prosecutor specifically to felony domestic violence cases so that there's very focused vertical prosecution of these cases. And we're going to continue to involve ourselves in training with the New Albany Police Department to make sure that they have all the tools that we can offer them in our help in responding to domestic violence, and that our office is continuing to do those things that can facilitate the best response from our end as well.
What's your role? I'm sorry, I may have missed that.
Oh, I'm Chief Deputy Prosecutor.
All right, we'll take questions if you have any questions.
Can you explain, you guys were talking about there when he was ruled incompetent, can you just talk a little bit about that, the time frame and just what happened with that?
Sure. The process on incompetency within our legal system is the judge relies on professionals to make determinations if they're competent to stand trial. Do they understand the process? Do they understand what's going on? For a brief period of time, this particular individual was found incompetent, but the competency was restored so that he could participate in these proceedings.
Because also in Officer Davidson's statement, he said that he failed at getting Davidson, to try to kill him. Does that go into the competency part?
No,
of it?
that wasn't the evaluation of the competency. So just talking more generally, there is a phenomenon that you hear called suicide by cop or officer. And a lot of times people will attempt to utilize the lethal force doctrine, which is very tight. They can only use it in defense of others or themselves, but they'll try to hijack that and use as a method to have someone inflict something on them. And generally, officers are loath to use lethal force. That is the last thing they want to do. And I can tell you from talking to Sergeant Davison, that was the last thing, and it still haunts them. They do not want to use that. And so his statement in there was that he failed at that, to fail to hijack the procedures in place to protect people. He failed to hijack that.
Could you we got stuck in traffic on the Sherman bit and there was an accident, so we missed all the sentencing. Could you just regurgitate, the time he'll be serving?
Sure. So he pled guilty to a level 3 attempted aggravated battery. Level 3 in our system there's level 1, 2, and 3. It's a very high felony. An attempt requires a significant step. In this particular case, the attempt to run down in a vehicle an officer on 2 occasions. That's 16 years. That's the max you can get on that.
And that's what he pled guilty to?
That's what he pled guilty to, and also domestic violence is an A misdemeanor concurrent.
So he'll serve 16 years, but has the option for parole?
Well, that will be up to what I always say, that's up to the DOC. There'll be 16 years, 12 years to serve at the DOC. They'll make those determinations as to how long he serves up there.
And it's with 858 or 868 days served?
I believe it was 858 actual days he's already served here while in jail here.
Okay, and it was jail and not jail and home incarceration?
There wasn't a component of home incarceration that under our statute applies to his credit time.
Okay.
Looking through my notes to see if there's anything else.
Do you have any questions of Chief Bailey too?
I guess, yeah. If you want to talk about in this kind of situation with your officers, like he was just talking about the tough positions you guys are put in someone who might want to do suicide by cop or something like that. So on the law enforcement, for you guys being out there, what is that for you to see something like that, someone who might want to do that?
Well, first, I want to say that our officers are trained very well, over and above what the standard would be. And it may surprise you, but more times than probably what anybody in this room ever hears about, there are people who try to put our staff and other police officers nationwide into that position. And our officers are really good at de-escalating those situations. So I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear. These are, in many cases, very desperate people. They have, a multitude of problems in their life at that time. And, unfortunately, we don't always know what's going through their heads. So we use what's available to us, which oftentimes is time, to ensure that we can get somebody to a point where we can talk to them and safely resolve the matter.
And is Sergeant Davidson, is he still working out in the field or any changes at all?
He has been promoted since this incident occurred, and he's performing another role on the department.
Physically, is he okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's fine. He's a fully certified, authorized police officer today. He's working on our evidence technician unit now. So it was a promotion for him. Remember, this occurred this was several years ago that this occurred. So Sergeant Davidson is a fine performer and has excelled in his career.
And then for either one of you, Chris, or like you mentioned, this happened back in COVID. It's been a long time coming. So you kind of touched on this. What is it like to finally get something like this through and see it get to the end after years now of just kind of going through the whole process?
For us, We unfortunately, I don't mean this to sound wrong or bad, but we move on to the next thing. And that's the nature of our business. Our business kind of pushes us. So we were very conscious that this case took a long time to resolve. But, since that has occurred, we've dealt with many other things. So we have to continue to move forward to provide the quality service to the community that we do.
And we don't move on. We don't stop until it's resolved, and now it's resolved. And he's been held accountable.
I have more questions if you guys are.
All good.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Good
it.
to see you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, you're welcome.
Give me word yet? We need to know. We're running a VO update. Can you write a script?
We have a live chat.
Oh my god.
Yeah.